The current vice president, who is also the presidential candidate of the New Patriotic Party, had made the comment that you don't need legislature to implement the SHS program. That's most instructive. Dr. Baumia says that you don't need legislature to be able to implement the SHS program. And in fact, that is in sync with what Professor Adai is saying. Okay. Now, are we now being told that for 7 years, the NPP administration illegally implemented the free SHS program? Was there a legal bar? Was there a legal restriction? There was none. So I'm so surprised that this legislation, we are making so much noise about this legislation. Unless we admit, or unless we say that over the last 7 years, it has been illegally implemented. If it has been legally implemented, why the rush? Then, Randy, there's an issue about the hierarchy of laws. Okay? The hierarchy of laws. And there's no doubt whatsoever that if you come to consider the hierarchy of laws, the 1992 Constitution is the supreme law of Ghana. Now, if the 1992 Constitution insists that we must make education free, how can you entrench anything about free education by going for, lesser laws and so on? Your laws passed in Parliament must be consistent with the 1992 Constitution before they can have any validity. Okay. So you have the Constitution itself making provisions for free education and so on. Why the need to go to Parliament for inferior legislation, and so on? I don't know. Now, there's something very interesting, and it is what I've noticed, that this whole move is more propagandist than administrative or legal. It's more propagandist. And I've come to this conclusion based on the statements which were made by the majority leader, Honorable Afenyo Makin. When Afenyo Makin actually came out and said that the minority, the so-called minority, was opposed to the bill, when the bill had not even been drafted, when even cabinet had not received the bill. And how do you oppose something which doesn't exist? That's a problem. Now, from the snippets we are getting, it does appear that the bill which has gone to cabinet for discussion and approval is going to make... Which
is on its way to cabinet, we are told. It's not landed there yet.
How long does it take to move from Minister of Education to Jubilee House? Well, let's say it's on its way.
It depends on who's carrying it.
Maybe a snail.
Yeah.
Maybe it's on the back of a snail, But whatever it is, that bill, from the snipers we are getting, is making substantial changes, massive substantial changes to senior high schools as they exist today.
In fact, the entire education sector.
Yeah.
Because you refer to the Constitution, dealing with hierarchy of laws and all that. Okay. So I was even going to raise a small issue.
Yeah.
And you see, when you look at the Constitution speaks about basic education, speaks about secondary education, and speaks about tertiary education. Now you realize that basic education, which is F-cube, is where the Constitution actually gives a timeline, 15 years.
Yeah.
From the promulgation of the Constitution.
Yeah.
Which presupposes that by 2007, which there are no timelines for those ones. But when you speak about hierarchy of laws, then you would realize that the Constitution itself now has education in 3 segments. So what it describes as basic education, secondary education, and tertiary education. What this bill, from what the minister has told us, what this bill seeks to do is to now change that structure. And so when they say secondary education, what it means is that a 3-year of JHS, which is known as basic or part of basic education, is going to be added to secondary education. So you have a complete overhaul of what the structure is.
Yeah, that is true. But you see, Randy, the not the NPP. I mean, some of the communicators of the NPP, or better still, the propagandists of the NPP, have been on this binge for a long time.
Which one?
Claiming that review of SHS, or free SHS, amounts to abandoning it. You understand? They've been running with it over a long period of time. It is not clear from what we are hearing about what has gone to cabinet that there's a major review underway by the Akufo-Addo government itself.
But even before what hasn't gone there, in the IMF document.
But I was coming to that. Okay. So the NPP itself is carrying out a major review of the free SHS policy. Now, if you look at the agreement they have reached with the IMF, which is being touted by all kinds of propagandists and so on, that agreement itself acknowledges the need for review. So how come that they've come to the conclusion that review means abandonment and so on? Well, where is that coming from? When they themselves have committed to review, when they are engaged in a process of review. And another very important point is that these reviews are taking place without stakeholder consultations. No stakeholder consultations at all. Okay? The teachers' organizations. Where are they in this review, this massive review that is being carried out by this government? Look, I think that education is a key pillar of the national
I'm extremely
effort.
surprised because even the increase of the SHS from 3 years to 4 years, we saw the stakeholder engagements before the legislative stuff and all that, the documentation and all those things. We saw it. I would be surprised that we intend to have such far-reaching, structural changes in our education. And our recourse is to go to cabinet for a debate.
You rush it to Parliament.
I
very
find
weird.
it extremely strange.
Yeah. Strange is a kind word. It's weird. Extremely weird. You understand? Weird. But, I mean, for me, education is one of the key pillars of the national development effort anywhere in the world. And I think it is a crime to reduce it to a propaganda tool. It's a crime to reduce discussions on education to pranks intended to win votes in an election. I think it's clearly unacceptable. And you want to play Chaskele with our education? Our education is reduced to just some tool of making some contestants in the election unpopular. And so on. Is that the purpose? I'm worried, that this appears to be the attitude. Why? I would have thought that if we want a sustainable free SHS program, in putting forward reforms and so on, we would engage all stakeholders. And my definition of all stakeholders would include political parties in the opposition. Because as for this legislation, Masha, you can pass the legislation today. Tomorrow morning, if there's another government, they can throw the legislation away. Easy. So, passing the legislation is not a guarantee for the continuation of the free
the most
SHS
important thing
program.
is the buy-in. No, I will be, because I'll be extremely surprised because I do not know of any major, educational move that has not, been done on the basis of stakeholder engagements. Yes, not everybody will agree to what you want to do, but that's how it's done. Especially when you want to change the structure. The first time in recent days in the Fourth Republic, this thing has come up in the manifesto of some parties, the issue of making SHS the termination point. And so people, so I've heard the CPP, I've heard Dr. Indrom in the past. I think that in the NPP's 2016 manifesto, if I stand to be corrected, there was also something like that, and all these things have been canvassed. The person who made really a lot of noise about this in the Fourth Republic was Dr. Indrom, about making SHS the termination point and not doing BC and all those things.
Actually, he came with that policy from the Convention People's Party. He had been flag bearer of the Convention People's Party.
So that's
the
where
Convention
he
People's Party was the first political party to advocate free education.
Okay.
So Indom came from the Convention People's Party with that. Yeah. But interestingly, Dr. Indom's party was the first political party which actually did a costing of the program and came out with its implications on other sectors of the national life and so on. Nobody did a very thorough job. Nobody, not even the NPP, which eventually came to implement it, did that thorough job.
Eric, let me hear you.
I mean, in a general conversation around education, whereby the position is that, how do you allow a child who is 13, 14 to truncate the education at a certain point? Let's extend, let's redefine what the basic education means, so that at least, if for nothing at all, that child is leaving school with an SHS certificate, and they'll be able to do other things. They are more matured, they've gone through because we went to a system where you were in secondary school for 7 years, from Form 1 to Upper 6. You understand what I'm saying? And so for me, I think that it's probably nothing that is extraordinary. It's not an original idea. It's about, like you said, even if there's a conversation about consultations and stakeholder consultation and everything, there are all sort of like practical things that needs to be done.
Aware?
But
are you aware? Let me just ask you this question. Are you aware that despite the fact that F cube is law, and that from 2007, per the constitutional provision, F cube has become law. So we have free compulsory basic education, at least from 2007 till date. And that the termination point is JHS 3. Are you aware that there are many students for who termination is class 6?
Yes.
And it's as a result, not because there is no law. The current law terminates, the first termination point is JHS 3. But by virtue of the fact that there are many schools that do not have JHSs, they have only class 1 to class 6.
Yes.
So many of these students, and if you read the reports from EduWatch and others, you will see it. Many of these kids, when they finish the class 6, they have to go miles to be able to access even GSS 1. Yeah. So for them, although there's a law that says that the first termination point is JHS 3, they are unable to terminate there.
No, but Randy, I agree with you. And I think that, I mean, one of the things that we are doing is that we are trying to probably, if we like, christen this proposed bill or this intention of a new bill as a free SHS bill. Right? But the reality is that it's not supposed to be, it's not.
No, but who's doing that?
No, but that's what I'm saying. No, but I'm saying that.
What you're complaining about?
What I'm saying is that it is not a free SHS bill. It is a redefinition of a basic education. I don't know what is going to be called, what is going to be defined as. But so again, this platform.
Your majority leader doesn't know what you're saying.
Oh, no, but I don't speak for the majority leader. We are just speaking.
It just seems to me that you are saying something totally different from what the majority leader is pushing.
No. But that's what I'm saying, that he can choose to call it whatever he wants to call it. But in terms of what actually is inside of that particular bill and how it seeks to, one, redefine basic education and at least make sure that, like I indicated, that if you can have a child that goes to JSS at 10 and by 13 they're done with school, what are they going to be doing with their lives? Right? If you don't have a system that actually makes sure that that child still stays within the school system to be able to get to a point where they have enough education to be able to now decide whatever it is that they want to do with their lives. Right, so these are things that, and then in the redefinition of that, having secondary schools attached to this JSS school, so that a child is in school from 1 to from 6 or whatever it is, or use the BEC as a basis for school selection alone, but not a point of truncation. These are conversations that we can have. My challenge, and I'm a proponent of consultation, my challenge with consultations, and even sometimes for people who call for these consultations, is that people are asking for a consultation, and they're already coming with an entrenched view or an intransigent position on the matter. You cannot consult with somebody like that. You know what I'm saying? So, whilst even this thing that we are doing...
Why can't you?
No, because if the person is already coming from with a certain position,
yeah, but
all that I'm going to do is to inform you.
You know what I'm saying? All
my position.
Well,
exactly.
Everybody who comes to the table has a position.
Yes.
However, many people...
I use the word entrenched.
Yeah, many people... Okay,
Yeah,
many
that
people...
you're not, like,
people could even have entrenched positions on the basis of what they believe, what they know, what they understand. But in the face of superior viewpoints or compelling reasons, they are just. In every negotiation, people go with set, especially when it's even institutional representation, they go with set positions. Now it's up to you to let people see reason. It's up to you to critique all viewpoints there. And to find a way of, like I said, you won't get 100%. You shouldn't even be looking for 100% acceptance by everybody.
Consensus, yes.
But at least, for you, who sit in your office and all that and believe that, first of all, you see, the arrogance when it comes to policy formulation and implementation starts off with those who believe that they have the authority and power. They start off from the belief that I am empowered by ABCD. That's where the issue of entrenched positions and others will come from. Because otherwise, if you are even a Ghanaian citizen, now let me not be even say a player in the education, it's a Ghanaian citizen, and you hear that government is thinking of some serious structural changes to our education, and you don't hear any consultative process with respect to all key stakeholders in the sector, and that what you hear is that, the thing is coming to Parliament for the MPs to take a decision on it. Or one side does not want to support it. And the next thing here is that the minister says, oh no, we are sending it to cabinet for a discussion, and then from cabinet it will come to Parliament. How would you take it?
But you see, Randy, I think that we're also missing a point. The whole essence of Parliament and in what it stands for, represents, is because all 33 million of us cannot go and sit in the chamber and make a decision. And even for the processes that these bills go through, requires that the parliamentary committees and that are responsible for promulgating this actually are supposed to now bring in these stakeholder groups and whoever is interested in this particular bill before it actually
but you
comes
have
to the
worked,
floor.
no, you have worked in the executive before.
Yeah.
You know that.
Yes.
Before you, let's, for example, GEPA.
Yeah.
Before you decide to propose any legislation,
Yes.
and even submit it to cabinet through your sector minister, you would have engaged all the players in your sector and have taken their inputs and everything. That is how your LI or whatever it is will be enriched.
Exactly.
Before you give it to your sector ministry for onward transmission to cabinet.
I agree.
Not so.
I agree.
So you do not say that I have not done that. But because when the thing gets to Parliament, the parliamentarians Parliament will advertise for people to bring in memoranda, or the committee will have the opportunity of inviting people. And so it is okay.
No, I'm not.
That's not how stakeholder engagements work, especially even in the education sector.
I'm saying that, you see, for example, as we speak, right, I think that there's also a lot of speculation here. It can never be the case that no stakeholder engagement has happened. You can also advocate for a lot more engagement, because maybe as we even leave this particular platform. Somebody else will come out, oh, I am an expert in A, B, C, and during the process, I was consulted, or people, they wanted to pick my brain on these things. These things sometimes also happen in the background. That does not come...
Are you saying
no,
that
I'm just saying.
If we're having stakeholder engagements on changing the structure of education and all that, we won't know.
No, but Randy, this is not the first time we are talking about this redefinition of the basic education. This has been, like you say, Chrissy even mentioned, it's a conversation that's gone on even way before we even started this period, right? And that it's actually even in the Constitution and all of those things, right? You understand? So for me, I think that it's not. I mean, of course, I don't advise the ministry that does it, but I think that anybody that calls for more consultation has every right to do so.
But Randy, I think we should address ourselves to the provisions of the Constitution. Okay, the fundamental law of the land. This is Article 25, and the title is Educational Rights. And it says 1. All persons shall have the right to equal educational opportunities and facilities, and with a view to achieving the full realization of that right. A. Basic education shall be free, compulsory, and available to all. This is what the Constitution says.
Yes.
Basic education shall be free,
mandatory,
compulsory, and available to all. Is basic education?
Yes, it is.
Now?
Yes.
How?
That's F-cube.
Masa, Randy.
Yeah, F-cube, up to GHS 3.
You haven't been seeing the videos of educational institutions from the villages and so on?
Oh yeah, we have serious challenges.
It doesn't satisfy this.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It doesn't satisfy this.
Yeah, true.
B. Secondary education in its different forms, including technical and vocational education, shall be made generally available and accessible to all by every appropriate means, and in particular by the progressive introduction of free education. C. Higher education shall be made equally accessible to all on the basis of capacity by every appropriate means, and in particular by progressive introduction of free education. D. Functional literacy shall be encouraged or intensified as far as is possible. And E. The development of a system of schools with adequate facilities at all levels shall be actively pursued. This is what the Constitution says. Clear. The Constitution is very, very clear. And in fact, in the light of these provisions, why would anybody need another legislation to guarantee the continuation of free SHS? Why would anybody need another legislation?